Okay, so I wanted to talk about First Samuel, First Samuel 20 21. So let's go to First Samuel 21. Okay, then came David to Nob. Okay, then came David to Nob. Okay, now Nob was a town. Okay, Nob was a town of the priests of Benjamin, north of the city of Jerusalem. In the time of King Saul, the tabernacle of David stood here for a time, and David's visit to Ahimelech the priest was the cause, or at least the occasion, for the complete destruction of the city by Saul. Okay, so in 1 Samuel 22, David, fleeing from Saul, asked for provision for his young men and for his sword, all of that which the priest granted. But a mischief maker, Doeg the Edomite, was a witness to the transaction and reported it to Saul, who in his insane hatred and jealousy of David caused the priest to be slain and this city to be destroyed. Okay, so we're going to read about this here. So David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David and said to him, "Why are you alone and no man with you?" David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has commanded me a business and has said to me, let no man know anything of the business about which I send you, and what I have commanded you, and what I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Now, therefore, what is under your hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present." And the priest answered, "There's no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women." David answered him and said to him, "Of truth, women have been kept from us from about 3 days since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common. Yes, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel." So the priest gave him this hallowed bread. For there was no bread but the showbread that was taken before the Lord, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of Saul, of the servants of Saul, was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the most chief of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. So David said to Ahimelech, "Is there not here under your hand a spear or a sword?" So, so this is the second time now David is repeating under Ahimelech's hand. Okay, so what is so special with Ahimelech's hand? Okay, it's just my question. So this was Saul's high priest who helped David by giving him the showbread and Goliath's sword. Upon hearing this, Saul ordered the death of Ahimelech and the other priests with him. The only one that escaped is Abiathar. Okay. So his name means brother of a king. Okay, so I don't think we're going to get an answer on that. But it's interesting that it says that twice. So is there not here under your hand a spear or a sword? For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business was quick. It required quick. And the priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you slew in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, then take it. For there is no other save that here. And David said, there's none like that. Give it to me. Okay, so now I'm seeing what's going on here. Okay, now I'm seeing a little what's going on here. Okay, so David first says here, okay. David first says here, he takes the showbread, okay? And notice David asked for 5 loaves. How did Christ feed the all those people? 5 loaves and what? 2 fish. 2 fish. Okay, so David eats his holy bread. It says, for there was no bread there but the showbread, So there was no bread there but the showbread. So there was no other type of bread but the holiest, right? The holiest bread. This bread could be the same, 5 loaves that Christ fed these people with. Who knows? Okay? So we're gonna read on in the story, but here's what I'm understanding here. Okay, so there was no bread like the showbread. Okay, and that was the only thing there. Just like there's no weapons there, but the holiest of the weapons, the sword of David, that killed Goliath, the giant. Okay. Now, if we were speaking in fish here, Goliath would be one big fish. If fish were people. So David's basically naked here, okay? So he's naked here. So now he has no armor. He has no armor on him. So this showbread, okay, definitely gives him armor and a holy anointing. And this sword definitely gives him armor and a holy anointing. Okay, so David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said to him, is not this David, the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another to him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David and his 10,000? So the servants of Achish are like, what's this guy doing here? He's just not the king. And David laid up these words in his heart and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So David thought about this, and he's like, man, they're going to prey on me because they know who I am. And he changed his behavior before them. And he feigned himself mad in their hands, scrabbled on the doors of the gates, let his spittle fall down on his beard. He was acting a fool. He was acting crazy. Then said Achish to his servants, see, you see the man is mad. Why then have you brought him to me? Have I need of mad men, that you have brought this fellow to play the mad men in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? So So Achish was a Philistine king of Gath, whom David, fled to for protection. The Philistines' lords objected, so Achish sent David away. Okay, so David therefore departed there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. Okay, so Adullam. So Adullam, it's a retreat or a refuge. So this was a city, actually. So we know that Adullam was, of Hira, and that was Judah's friend. Okay, so when his brothers and all his fathers of the house heard it, they went down thither to him. Everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves to him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. Okay? 400 men. David went there of Mizpeh of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, let my father, let my mother, I pray you, come forth and be with you, till I know what God will do for me. And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelled with him while that David was in the hold. And the prophet Gad said to David, abide not in the hold. Okay? Depart, get you into the land of Judah. Then David departed, came into the forest of Hareth. Okay, so Hareth. And Hareth is a forest in Judah. Okay, so that's all it really says here about it. So when Saul heard that David was discovered and that the men were with him, now Saul stayed in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants that stood about him, hear now, you Benjamites, the son of Jesse, give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make all of you captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me, that there is none that shows me that my son has made a league with the son of Jesse, and there is none of you that is sorry for me or shows to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie and wait at this day. Then answered Doeg, the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse. Okay, so here's Doeg just ratting on David, just spilling the beans here. So throwing him under the bus. I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord of him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Okay, then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, all his father's house, and the priests that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king. And Saul said, Here now, you son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here am I, my lord. Saul said to him, Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that which you have given him bread, a sword, and have inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait as this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, Who is so faithful among your servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goes at your bidding and is honorable in your house? Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything to his servant, nor to the house of my father, for your servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. And the king said, You shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house. So they probably thought he was lying. The king said to him, The footmen that stood about him turned, slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand is also with David, because they knew when he fled, they did not did not show it to me. But the servants of the kings would not put forth their hand to fall on the priests of the Lord. Right? Okay. So you see this story. This is a common story throughout the whole Bible. Okay. Somebody, okay, that's against God's people tries to make God's people do something. Okay. Whether it be, fall down and worship me, when you listen to this music, serve these gods the same as we, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. This whole story, this is just a war, this constant war. And the king said to Doeg, turn you, fall on the priests. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell on the priests, and slew on that day 75 persons that did wear a linen ephod. So that's a big statement here. So what, I mean, so Doeg. Let's see a little bit about Doeg. Doesn't say much about him. Okay, Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell on the priest, and slew that day 75 persons that did wear a linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priests, smote he with the edge of the sword both men and women, children, sucklings, oxen, asses, sheep, with the edge of the sword. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priests. And David said to Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Abide you with me, fear not, for he that seeks my life seeks your life, but with me you shall be in safe guard. Okay, and that's God, basically saying you're safe with God. Follow God, don't follow men. And I pray this war, this constant war and battling stops. I pray that evil gets extinguished, stops. So we know that one day we'll all be one with the light, and the light will shine, and there will be no darkness. We know that. And I pray that it comes quick. God bless you.